Hey, it's Art from my new microphone. If you've been following the channel for a while, you've probably noticed a big difference in the beginning of this video, not in my personal introduction, but in the video quality. I have recently invested in a proper DSLR camera, so it's a new angle, new video production, and I'm really going to be taking this YouTube thing more seriously. I'm also investing in a new computer. I have a Mac Studio on the way. I am retiring my 2015 iMac. If you watched the video from last week where I shared my mastering chain, you would have realized how much my Mac is struggling. It's a little bit old and it's just not keeping up the way I need it to. And so a new computer is on the way, which prompted this video where I want to talk about investing in your own music production and how I went ahead and invested in my music production career. So this video is going to be a little bit different. I'm speaking into a camera rather than a webcam, and we aren't going to be diving into the computer and doing a screen share. It's going to be more of a talking head video, more of a discussion. So let's get things started with the essentials. When it comes to the essentials of music production, I would highly recommend investing in a proper computer. This can be a desktop or a laptop, and a digital audio workstation. In terms of a computer, I would recommend at least 4 gigs of RAM, preferably 8 gigs or more, and a decent amount of hard drive space and CPU in order to keep our files stored on the computer if need be, and to keep the digital audio workstation running smoothly. In terms of digital audio workstations, I personally use Apple's Logic Pro. I've used that professionally since 2015, and I've also worked professionally with Avid's Pro Tools. I've also produced music on Ableton Live and Fruity Loops FL Studio. But you don't necessarily have to dump a whole bunch of money into a digital audio workstation right off the bat. There are plenty of free options on the market, including things like GarageBand, Pro Tools First, Ableton Live Lite, and a few others. Of course, we can produce music successfully using analog or digital hardware. However, in today's day and age, I would highly recommend getting a computer, which you likely already have, and a digital audio workstation, which will often have everything we need in terms of plugins for our essential processes, things like compression, EQ, saturation, distortion, reverb, delay, and the like, and also plenty of virtual instruments that will allow us to produce music effectively and efficiently within the computer. With a proper computer and digital audio workstation, we pretty much have everything we need in order to produce music. We can make everything in the box, export it, and have our music sent out into the world with these two things. Of course, there are many other essentials that we should consider when getting into music production, things like monitoring. This can be headphones. I use the Audio-Technica M40X headphones, or studio monitors. I use the Yorkville YSM5s. I have a relatively small space here, so I only need 5-inch monitors, but you don't necessarily need studio headphones and studio monitors. You can use whatever headphones you have to get started, or whatever stereo speakers you have. In addition to proper monitoring, which allows us to hear what it is we are producing, we should also invest in a proper audio interface in order to interface other gear such as microphones and electronic instruments with our digital audio workstation. This is essential if we want to record anything from outside the computer, or if we want to feed our monitors with more accuracy. I personally still use my Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. I only have one set of monitors, and I only really need 2 inputs for what I'm doing personally with my music production. If you want to record full bands, or if you're a drummer, you may want a bigger audio interface, and if you're running multiple pairs of studio monitors, you may want to upgrade as well. I'm not quite there yet. Along with our audio interface, we may also want to invest with gear to interface with our computer via the audio interface. Things like microphones. I use the Rode NT1A as my primary condenser, although I do have more microphones in my mic locker. And we also have things like electronic instruments, such as the guitars you can see behind me on the wall. And one other essential that you may want to consider is a MIDI controller. I use the Arturia Keylab 49 as my MIDI keyboard and controller, and this allows me to control virtual instruments and other things within my digital audio workstation. We don't need a proper audio interface to use a MIDI controller. We can often connect them via USB, but it is another essential that we may want to look into for our music production endeavors. Beyond the essentials, we may also want to invest further down the line in third-party plugins, third-party virtual instruments, acoustic treatment, additional monitoring, additional hard drives, power conditioners, and other things that can help us improve our music production. But if we're just getting started, I would really only encourage you to invest in a proper computer, digital audio workstation, some monitoring, an audio interface, and any other gear that you would want to control or record within your digital audio workstation. The next point I want to bring up is what you want your ROI, or your return on investment, to be. It's one thing to invest money and time into a project like music production, and then another thing to get something out of it. Now, many of us will be hobbyists, and that is perfectly fine. Perhaps we have a nice day job and we have some additional income that we can spend on our hobbies. And so in this case, I would say spend to your heart's content, make sure that you stay within your budget and have fun with it. If you really want the top of the line stuff, go for it. And if you want to have a stripped down setup, I would say that's perfectly fine as well. If you want to make a career out of this, I would highly encourage you to focus primarily on investing in your knowledge and learning the fundamentals before opting for additional gear to suit your music production endeavors. I'd also recommend working on as many projects as you can in the early days and just getting those repetitions in as much as possible. If you are looking to do this professionally, I would also encourage you to look into the business structure wherever you live in the world and see how you can get tax benefits in doing this professionally. For example, I live here in Canada, and while our tax rate is very high, I do get to write off in terms of taxes everything that I buy for music production here because I do this professionally. But the big thing I want you to consider if you do want to do this professionally is how much money you're putting in versus how much money you are getting out. After all, working professionally is often about making a profit, and so it's something to take into account the return on investment in terms of your music production. Something else worth considering is time investment versus money investment. This is something that is discussed a lot in business circles, and it's something that in terms of music production, I think we need both. We need to invest a lot of time to get our skills and to acquire our knowledge, and then sometimes a lot of money in order to get the gear required in order to do our work. When we are just getting started, again, I would highly recommend investing a lot of time, getting those reps in, producing as much music as you can, and learning as much as you can before getting into higher end gear. For one, this will give you the experience to know whether you like music production or not. And two, it will give you a stronger sense of what you need in terms of gear to help facilitate your own workflow. The next investment worth considering is gear versus knowledge. Now, I may be biased because I teach music production and make some money off of teaching music production, but I believe that knowledge is more crucial than gear, especially when we are starting out. When I personally started producing music in 2009, 2010, there wasn't a whole lot of stuff on YouTube for me to watch, and I made the big mistake of thinking that there was just a magic plugin or maybe a different DAW that would give me the sound that I wanted, when really I was just lacking the fundamentals and had no clue what I was doing. And so especially in the early days, and even as you get into the intermediate stages and the expert stages, I think that investing in knowledge is an absolute must for getting the most out of our music production. This could mean watching more YouTube videos for free. It could mean investing in courses. It could mean learning how to mix and how to master, how to arrange songs, and a whole bunch of other things that go into this beautiful art form of music and music production. It's also important to note that oftentimes there's a lot of marketing that goes into music production equipment and gear, and so it's important to not fall for the hype and to only invest in the stuff that you absolutely need in terms of music production. If this video is proving insightful for you thus far, I would invite you to hit that like button, as it really helps out small channels like this in the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate that. The next thing worth investing into to help with our music production is critical listening. This is listening critically to our own and other people's music to really understand what is going on in terms of production and even in mixing. We often get into music production because we love music, and it's important for us to sit back and listen specifically for the production elements in our favorite music so that we can understand what is going on and better emulate that in our own work. In terms of the more technical aspects, I really like soundgym.com. I'm not being sponsored by them whatsoever. It's just a great resource online if you want more of the technical critical listening skills. But I would highly recommend investing some time learning how to listen critically, not only for the technical aspects, but also in the more artistic production aspects. I have a video going into detail about how I would go about starting critical listening. I'll leave a link to that in the description box down below for you to check out. And the final investment I would highly encourage you to make in terms of your music production is in your relationships. This is with your clients and your peers and your collaborators, but also with people in the broader audio industry. It also includes your support group, not necessarily people who are into music production, but the people like your friends, your family, and the like to help support you in your music production endeavors. This is especially important if you want to work professionally in the field. It's often the case that we want our music to speak for itself, but whether you like it or not, there are a lot of politics that go on in any industry, and the music production industry is no different. Now, personally, I consider myself an audio engineer or an audio technician when it comes to my professional work, and so a lot of my professional relationships are in the broadcast field or the radio or television field. I look at music production more as an artistic outlet for myself, and so I'm not heavily involved in the music production industry. But if I was ever to make a go of it as a professional musician or music producer, I would certainly take advantage of my network and to work harder on maintaining and growing new relationships within the audio field. So I hope that that wasn't too scatterbrained. There were just a few things I wanted to mention in terms of investing in ourselves when it comes to our music production endeavors. I wanted to focus more so on the big picture aspects and the more holistic view of music production. But if you'd like me to get more into the specifics, mainly of gear, for example, then please let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll gladly put together a video for you. So thank you for sticking around, and if you'd like to learn more about mixing, I do have a free mixing guidebook. It will be the first link in the description box down below. You can click on that link, sign up to my newsletter, and I'll send it to you right away. It goes through my entire framework for mixing within the digital audio workstation to help you make the right decisions at the right times to help you get you better mixes in your music production endeavors. So once again, that will be the first link in the description box down below. And if you'd like to hang out with me more here on YouTube, there will be another few videos in the top left and right corner that you can check out. And you can subscribe here for more video content on music production and all things audio. So thank you very much once again for spending some time here with me. I hope that you like the new DSLR camera and the new angle, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Cheers.